Bruce Babcock is retiring from his service to the town of Pittsford, specifically as water superintendent and health officer at the end of the month, effective Friday, May 29th. We hope to give him a proper send-off once the COVID-19 restrictions are loosened a bit to allow for a social gathering, whether Bruce wants one or not. The town's new health officer, Rich Bowman, will take over effective June 1st. Town manager and the retiring health officer, Bruce Babcock, met with Rich on Tuesday, May 12th to welcome him aboard and to allow for some advice to be passed along, which was done. We have received word from the state that the town may move forward with its request for bids on the long pending salt shed project. And we have similar news from the state regarding the village sidewalk curb and sidewalk restoration project. The state has given its permit for that project, and obviously we will notify all potential bidders of the conditions that the state has attached to its permit. There will be an abbreviated electronic version of the spring quarterly newsletter available as early next week. Stay tuned and find it at the town's website, which can be found www.pittsfordvermont.com. The reason we're doing it this way is we've had so much programming canceled, there's much less to report on, but we do want to give people kind of an update as to where all this programming stands, along with a report on other town activities. There was another virtual staff meeting on Thursday, May 14th, and that went pretty well. The next select board meeting, I'll point out tonight's meeting agenda is pretty light, but the next select board meeting will involve a review of truck body bids, the paving bids that we expect, and the fuel bids. Let's cross fingers for good numbers to reflect low oil prices. Finally, the town offices will be closed Monday, the 25th of May, in observance of Memorial Day. Services will not be available either. Memorial Day flags will be going up on telephone poles along the Route 7 corridor in the village as early as tomorrow, I believe. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully that'll bring some cheer to our landscape.
Any comments or questions for John on his report?
I have a question. On that sidewalk, the state has concrete, we agreed to have asphalt. What's the
Correct.
deal with that?
I don't know, and I can certainly look into that. But that certainly has been the case all along, so I will check on that.
Because I mean, it's ridiculous to put concrete
Right?
that you're just gonna tear out, and that expense, and it's just stupid.
Agreed.
The only other question I got for John, any update on, I've had several people ask me this week, on mosquito spraying this year?
It's always conditions
But
dependent.
it's still on,
Yeah, it's still on. We are gonna provide our usual contribution as approved by the voters at town meeting, unless the board takes some other step. But we have signed on for another year of coverage, and we have a 4-year buy-in.
right.
This is the 3rd year of that, so we're
I
almost
assumed that was the answer,
equity
but I wanted
members.
to make sure it was
Yeah.
official.
Select board member remarks, if any.
The only thing I have, if there are people in particularly the Florence area, the VTEL tower that's been on my silo for just shy of 7 years, I finally made enough noise so they have turned it on. So if there's people, and it may come all the way into Pittsford, I don't know. So if there's people that have questionable internet, maybe get hold of VTEL and maybe they can pick up off of that. Because it was Thursday they turned it on. They called me immediately. The thing came last night and it's mighty fast.
Good, thanks, man.
So that's, yep.
Butch, you got any public remarks tonight?
I do, if you like them now.
Yeah,
So I just give you a little update
Sure.
from Montpelier, if you'd like, what we've done in the last week or so.
go ahead.
Okay, so the House has passed 5 bills that could affect our towns. One is that we passed a bill that if you have to borrow, say a town has to borrow money to pay their ed fund bill to the state, that, you know, maybe your tax collections are down or whatever, you don't have enough money to pay that bill. We're giving you relief. We're proposing to pay your borrowing fees and interest and other expenses you may have along that line that are related to COVID-19. That was one. Another one that I thought was fairly important that we did pass, when we passed the bill to allow folks like you to meet electronically, or as we are today, on phones or whatever. We made the assumption that quasi-judicial boards could do the same thing, and come to find out, boards like your BCA and your BZA, any board that takes official testimony and makes a decision based on that testimony, was not included in that group that we approved. And you probably got a determination of BLCT that you were okay to do that with the BCA, BZA, and other quasi-judicial boards, but come to find out that was not legal. But we did correct that, and now with some restrictions and some allowances, the BCA, BZA, and others will be able to meet electronically. When that bill finally gets a signature, we'll have to study that carefully because there are some limitations to that. We also passed a bill, and Joe may be interested in this, on the new duties of tree wardens and what their duties can or can't be, and what authority and jurisdiction they do have. It broadens the authority and jurisdiction over town-owned trees for the tree warden. And I will point out, as a case in Brandon, I think they had over 400 new trees planted up there. So the purpose of this bill would encompass something like that. It would give the tree warden the authority have the authority to protect those trees and see that they're grown and trimmed and whatever is necessary to make them grow possible. And it takes the responsibility away from the like town highway crew and gives it to somebody that's quote unquote an expert and with knowledge of growing trees. It also, and we're just talking within highway right-of-way, gives that tree warden the responsibility of tree removal in the highway right-of-way to ascertain that maybe it's got emerald ash borer or something along those lines that it needs to be removed. And that bill is just headed for the Senate, so it's a long ways away. We also passed, today, the House passed a miscellaneous tax bill that really had no taxes in it, which is good news. But what it does, however, it sets up a committee to try to understand the implications of the state collecting the statewide education property tax and taking the towns out of the equation. There's a committee that's being formed or named to come back to the legislature next year with recommendations. One of the pieces of the bill that I did not favor was that they would have jurisdiction over hearing appeals and abatements for townwide education taxes, and I can't see how that would work, seeing how the town is responsible for a
Thanks, Butch. Anybody got any questions for Butch?
I do, Butch, how likely is it that there will be, a revote on school budgets?
Very unlikely.
Very unlikely? Okay.
Yeah, that was not a serious proposal. The legislature had asked for ideas, and that's an idea. But I think that's gonna be very unlikely. It's really not workable, but it was subject for discussion for a day.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Butch. On to old business, discussion of COVID-19 response.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
I can't hear Hank, John, can you help me?
Yeah, Hank was just introducing me to talk about the COVID-19 response. And in so doing, I'll just read my comments from the town manager's report, which I did not read earlier. Everybody knows about the guidance for taking care of yourself and for others, so I won't belabor that. I will point out that the town office staff has recently increased in-office hours. Some folks had chafed under the limitations and needed to have access to the office for longer to be as productive as they wanted to be. So we have adjusted those hours up. Most people are still in the neighborhood of 40 to 50% of their original hours and working the rest of the time from home. The town offices for now remain closed to the public, but I do sense that there's change coming in the wind, especially with good numbers from the governor's press conferences every other day. We are taking additional precautions, as I've mentioned before, in terms of extra cleaning of the town offices. We've taken delivery of more gloves, cloth masks, and we have ordered more, along with thermometers to allow employees to be scanned before each day's work begins. Recreation events continue to be canceled as necessary. Most recent examples involve the rec area open house. The town-wide tag sale has been postponed indefinitely. Randy and I have been in close contact regarding activities at the rec area in encouraging social distancing. Signage has been posted along these lines. Certain rec area features have been closed until for now, and that's the swim area and the playground, so those remain closed for now. Basketball and tennis courts have been reopened based on the governor's guidance. It appears that day camps will be also allowed, although there are many, many restrictions. So Randy continues to plan for that. He's been in touch with his peers and he's monitoring the statewide discussion of all rec area supervisors. Green Up Day is still planned for May 30th. There will be bags available for pickup next week. I imagine you'll be wanting to get in touch with Randy and arranging for the transfer of those bags. There will be a dumpster as usual in front of the building on Saturday, May 30th. We haven't yet got confirmation about John Keith and his hot dog wagon, but we hope he's here too. Stay tuned for more information on the website. The Lothrop School, regarding this summer day camp, the RNESU, the school district, will not allow the use of their buildings or the Lothrop School as our headquarters for morning and afternoon rally points for the day camp kids, so or rain dates. So Randy is looking at alternative venues, and I've suggested a few spots he might check in on, including the library and the local churches. So hopefully he'll figure something out. He still has 5 or 6 weeks before day camp begins. So that's my COVID-19 update, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, John. Anybody got anything to add? We'll move on to continued discussion of repercussions for the municipal finances due to the virus.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, or as I hope you know, last night I sent out an email to everybody on the select board pointing out that we have kind of updated guidance from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns about various tools that might be in the tool belts of select boards as we deal with the likely economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. By way of just scanning through the memo, I'll point out that the town's expenses are mostly paid with property taxes, We normally get approval of the budgets for those expenses in town meeting in March, and then the town select board usually sets the tax rates to raise that amount needed for the highway fund, the general fund, and the village fund in mid-July. The town then sends out tax bills which feature 3 property tax payment dates. This year the dates are August 13th, September 17th, and November 12th. Generally, once you adopt budgets at town meeting and set collection dates for taxes, they cannot be changed. However, as VLCT has pointed out, the state legislature has passed a law giving greater flexibility to towns to provide relief to taxpayers. The town, for example, could extend property tax payment deadlines and/or declare a policy of skipping a year of tax sales. For example, in an insert with tax bills, we could point out that it's only after the final payment deadline that penalties and interest are assessed. Some people don't know that. We can emphasize that. We could also, again, or the board could extend that property tax deadline. One issue that may come up if you were considering that is how long to extend it. A, because Christmas will soon be approaching and you probably don't want to impact Christmas-related spending. Second, if you went into the next year, then you're pushing it so far out that it might create a hardship for people who will then face new tax bills in July of 2021. So you'll want to consider those impacts. As I say, we can avoid a tax sale for a year cycle. This winter would be the next one scheduled. Normally, we have tax sales whenever a taxpayer is 2 or more years delinquent with a balance of greater than $1,000. The town has the primary position on these properties, so we're not going to lose any equity position in all likelihood by skipping a year of tax sales. So again, that's an attractive option. The town also could consider making cuts to the already approved 2020-2021 budgets as now allowed by the legislature and set tax rates in July which would reflect those reduced amounts. If the board wishes to explore this option, I'd be happy to provide a list of possible options for budget cuts at a future meeting. The easiest money or the lowest hanging fruit is the large construction projects that we've got in the highway budget. The problem is that some of these projects are already well underway, and the town has already committed to the state, which has funded some grants to proceed. I don't know what latitude the state might give us to beg off on the immediacy of that need. We could explore that. The town, as Butch said, the town can always borrow against expected property tax revenues. This is called tax anticipation financing, and for some towns with cash flow issues, that's a fairly routine practice. We've only done it once during my 12 years here, and that was at the recommendation of Helen, the clerk treasurer, because they were expecting some sort of cash flow crunch several years back. I don't recall the specifics of that. On the water and sewer side, as we know, those revenues are paid largely through ratepayers, with us having 2 6-month billing cycles. We could certainly encourage the Water and Sewer Commission to extend the 30-day payment deadline, perhaps another 30 or 60 days. We always have had a policy of working with people who are having difficulty by setting up payment plans. That's also true of property taxes, by the way. State law now forbids any water shutoffs during this COVID-19, even for non-payment of utility bills. The town could certainly generate some goodwill by making this official town policy as well. After all, times are tough, and hand washing and good hygiene are key weapons against the COVID-19 virus. Finally, as I discussed briefly with the Water and Sewer Commission last night, it is likely to be expected that people spending more time at home are going to have larger water and sewer use bills. And so there may be some opportunity, once we see the meter reading in the next month, to look at it, compare it with what our revenue budget is for, And if it looks like we're gonna collect more than we need to, we could certainly do an across-the-board kind of a meter fee reduction that would hit everybody in the same percentage. But as I say in my memo, stay tuned, no good deed goes unpunished. There's always gonna be some folks, even if we do that, who might say that, well, my neighbor made out better with this discount than I did because I was conserving more, or I was out of town, or what have you. Nothing's perfect, but these are just some options that we can consider.
Questions, comments? On to the last item, extension for a dog license deadline.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we already, or the board already, I should say, you folks have already extended the dog license deadline from April 1st to May 15th. May 15th has come and gone with very little compliance. Helen has suggested that we provide an extra 60 days to July 15th to more realistically get a dog census, or at least dog licensure.
I'd make that motion.
I'd second it.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Motion unanimously carried.
We'll add that to the newsletter that's coming up.
There you go.
What was that, 30 or 60, what, 30?
That's 60 more days, so
60
July 15th.
That being the last item on our list tonight.
Can I go back just a second?
Sure.
Can I ask, so, the water bills and that stuff will be going out in a month, you said?
They go out at the end of June, yes.
The end of June,
For the
okay, so we got
January through
another
June.
month and a half.
Yeah.
No, I'm just thinking as far as our property taxes, that would be a good indication. I mean, if people are still able to pay their water bills and whatever, then, but if there's a lot of people that can't, then that would be what we could expect with property taxes, I would presume.
Certainly, and of course, you do have until the middle of July to set tax rates or even to adjust the budget. So there is some time to see what other towns are doing and to see how the economy seems to be bouncing back, those kinds of issues. And see what kind of aid there might be coming from the state, who knows?
John, any comments from the food shelf? I've noticed that's been a hot topic on some of these free food things, like today in Middlebury.
Yep.
There were thousands of people that showed up.
And there was a big demand at the Rutland one a couple of
And-
weeks ago.
Is our food shelf doing okay? Have you heard anything?
I have not, but I will make an effort to reach out to Robin Rowe. As you know, we did double up on
I
our
know we did.
contribution.
Yeah.
And at that time, she said it was remarkably quiet. She was expecting more activity, but things may have changed. Let me check and report back to you. Yep.
And Robin had teamed up, I think, with, Shelley Williams at the library recently, cause
Oh, okay.
Shelley gave out boxes of food, and then it had like a piece of paper inside that said that they could supplement that box with free produce from the food shelf, and it had all the hours and stuff, so. I think food's getting to where it needs to go, and
Good.
everybody's
I'll
pretty
get
good.
a report directly from Robin too. Yep.
We all set?
Yes, well.
Meeting's adjourned.